OpenAI just dropped their latest image generator, GPT Image 1.5, and this is incredibly powerful. So in this video, I'm gonna test the hell out of it and compare it to the current king of AI image generation, Nano Banana Pro, so you can see which is better. First of all, here's their official announcement page, and as you can see, this is very similar to Nano Banana. You can take an image of anyone and edit that image further, such as changing the person's hairstyle or what they're wearing. You can also change the background or outpaint it or change the aspect ratio. You can also generate different perspectives of that person. You can also create deepfakes of that person and add them to any other photo, and then you can stylize it however you want. But all of these examples are kind of easy. We already have other competitors that can do this already, like Nano Banana Pro or even the open source Qwen image edit. So let's start off by testing the hell out of GPT Image 1.5 with some way more trickier examples. Plus, I'm gonna go over its specs and performance and where and how to use it. Let's jump right in. By the way, just something to note before we proceed with the video. We already have a ton of image editors that can colorize and restore old photos or remove watermarks or change the angle of a photo or turn a photo into anime style or some other style or vice versa, or create deepfakes of anyone. I mean, that's just easy stuff, so I'm not even gonna show you any of this. I'm sure GPT Image 1.5 is already capable of doing all of the above. I really want to test its limits, so I'm gonna feed it some really tricky prompts that even trip up the best image editors. So for my first prompt, let's test if it actually understands all the Pokemon out there. I'm gonna write make a 4x4 grid featuring the Pokemon with these Pokedex numbers. And then I've added 16 random numbers. And here's what I got from GPT Image 5 on the left plus Nano Banana Pro on the right. And actually, both of them are able to understand all these Pokemon, which is already pretty impressive. I would have to say that Nano Banana Pro renders the Pokemon a bit better than GPT Image 5. For example, for Golbat and Pidgeotto, these just look a lot better than what I got from GPT-5. You can see that something looks off with these two generations. Same with like this Pokemon over here. I think overall the image from Nano Banana Pro looks a bit better. Now we start to see some discrepancies with this one, which is number 201. So let me actually double check my Pokedex and search for number 201. So this is called unknown and it should look like this. So if I paste this in here, notice that both GPT and Nano Banana Pro were not really able to get this Pokemon correct. And then we also see some discrepancy with the second last one, 301. Here it's rendering this in purple, but here it's making it pink. Plus the patterns on its neck are a bit different. So let me actually double check what 301 looks like. So it should look like this. So it seems like Nano Banana Pro got this more accurately, whereas for GPT, it's kind of making this stuff up. And then finally for this lobster, which I guess is 342, it should look like this. So again, it seems like Nano Banana Pro got the overall look of this a lot better than GPT Image 5. So overall, GPT is not bad, but here I would have to give the point to Nano Banana Pro. Alright, here's another tricky example testing how good it is at rendering expressions and emotions. So here I'm going to prompt it with a 4x4 grid of a young female with these emotions from left to right and then top to bottom. We have happiness, awe, enthusiasm, confidence, sadness, jealousy, irritation, embarrassment, surprise, confusion, nostalgia, fear, love, relief, pride, and anticipation. Some of these expressions are pretty tricky, so let's see how both these image models do. For GPT Image 1.5, happiness looks good, awe also looks good, the top row looks pretty good, it does convey the expressions, and then for the second row, it also looks pretty good. She does look like the specified emotion. And then for the third row, this also looks really good. It conveys the emotions perfectly. And then for the last row, it's also really good. Like some of these are really tricky, like relief or anticipation or nostalgia or confidence or jealousy, but it's actually able to convey all of these emotions very accurately. And then for Nano Banana Pro, let's see. For confidence, I wouldn't say she looks too confident in this shot. Same with awe here. She doesn't look too awestruck. And then for the second row, this looks pretty good. For the third row, nostalgia looks kind of strange. And then for the last row, pride and anticipation also look kind of strange. Like, it could be better. I would say in this instance, GPT renders these trickier emotions a bit better. But let me know in the comments what you think. If I had to pick a winner here, I would say the point goes to GPT Image. Alright, next, here's a controversial one. Let's see if GPT Image can just do homework for you. So I have this screenshot of a math assignment, and then for the prompt, let's get it to solve these math problems with some messy handwriting so it doesn't look like we generated this with AI. Now, I just tried it with this prompt, and it kept also altering the original questions, so I also added keep the original questions. And here's what I got. As you can see, GPT Image is actually very good. It's able to solve my math assignment using some messy handwriting, so it looks like I actually did the assignment. And I just did a quick scan of all these answers, and it seems correct. Keep in mind, this is just an image generator, so it's kind of crazy that it's able to solve all these math problems at once and output me the solution like this. So kids, if you're watching this, don't show this to your teacher. Now for Nano Banana Pro, it seemed to change the background of this for some reason, as if I printed this out. But nevertheless, it was able to also solve these questions with some messy handwriting. Now, surprisingly, the way that each of these solved these algebra questions were a bit different. So for Nano Banana Pro, it did it this way where it used the same operation on both sides to get the final answer, whereas for GPT, it just basically moved all the numbers on one side to isolate the variable. Anyways, both methods work, but here I would actually prefer GPT's generation because it didn't alter the background as well. Now, instead of doing math homework, I also tried testing it on some biology homework. So here is a worksheet where you have to label all these organelles, and unfortunately, neither image generator could get all the labels correct. So let's look at GPT's generation first. It's all over the place. It's not even close. Like, somehow it labeled the membrane to be the nucleus, which is just completely wrong. It labeled this to be the mitochondrion, which is also wrong. It basically got everything wrong. And then here is Nano Banana's generation. At least it got mitochondria right. But again, for the rest of these labels, it's pretty much wrong. So both of these were a fail. Now, like I said, all the image editors out there can already micro-edit an image, such as changing a person's hair or clothing, or changing the angle of a photo. So let's try something trickier. I'm going to upload this image, and let's get it to put this image into 4 separate quadrants. For the first quadrant, it's going to be an infrared thermal map. The second quadrant is going to be a segmentation map. The third one is a depth map. And the fourth one is going to be the same photo, but we invert the colors. All right, so here's what we got from both image generators. Let's look at GPT Image first. For the infrared thermal map, it does seem to get this correct. So indeed, her skin should be the warmest in this photo, followed by, I guess, her clothing and sofa because she's touching it. And then the background should be a lot cooler. So the first quadrant is correct. For the second one, this is kind of a segmentation map. It doesn't look great, but I guess it's a pass. And then for the third one, this is a depth map, but I wouldn't say it's too accurate. And then for the fourth one, let me invert the colors, and you can see this is not accurate. It's close, but it's not quite the original photo. Now, next, let's look at Nano Banana Pro. You can see it's also really good with this infrared thermal map. Same with the segmentation map. This looks a lot better than GPT's generation. Same with this depth map. You can see that the background is a lot farther away than the stuff here, whereas for GPT, it didn't really convey this accurately. And then for the inverted color, let's invert the color, and this actually is a lot closer to the original image. Very cool. So I would have to say in this instance, Nano Banana Pro is the winner. Alright, next up, I also fed it a really tricky prompt, which so far, not even Nano Banana Pro could get correct. So it's got to be 11:15 on a clock and a wine glass filled to the top. For GPT Image 1.5, it got both correct, although one minor flaw is that the hour hand looks kind of weird, plus it should be shorter than this one. I tried multiple generations, but for all generations, one of the hands are always kind of messed up. So not perfect, but this is the best render of a clock showing 11:15 that I've seen so far. And I guess one other minor error is that the surface of the wine doesn't really look correct, but this glass is filled to the top. And then here is Nano Banana Pro's generation. The glass is correct, but 11:15 is not really correct. So the hour hand should be slightly past 11 instead of right on 11. So none of them are completely perfect. I would have to say it's a tie. Next, I want to test its understanding of some real-world stuff. So I asked it to make a grid of the 4 rarest frogs in the world with their scientific name and short description at the bottom of each photo. So here is the generation from GPT Image 1.5. I actually don't know any of these frogs, so we'll have to double check. So let's fact check this really quickly. For GPT, it gave me this Iberian frog with this scientific name, and if I do a quick Google search, it does look like the actual frog. However, if you look down here, this Iberian frog is not like critically endangered. This is just near threatened. So this is not among the rarest frog species in the world. Next, we have this Titicaca water frog. Let me also Google the scientific name and see if this is accurate. Oh my god, what the hell is this? Alright, I did not know there was a frog that looks like this. Apparently, here's what this frog looks like, and this is critically endangered. So it got the name correct, however, this just looks like a regular toad. It doesn't look like the actual species. So that's a fail. And then finally, we have this tree kangaroo frog. Again, let me just Google this. And I couldn't even find the scientific name Littoria rarus. So I don't think that frog actually exists. So that's a fail. And then finally, let's check out this Kihanzi spray toad, which looks like this. And here it says it's extinct in the wild. So I guess it's not even part of the rarest frogs anymore if it's extinct. But anyways, here's what it looks like. Again, if I go back to GPT Image's generation, it doesn't really look like the actual specimen. So overall, it got all 4 of these wrong, which is not good. Next, let's check out Nano Banana Pro's generation. So interestingly, it gave me 4 completely different frog species. Let's fact check the first one, which looks like this, and this is critically endangered. So from an initial glance, this does seem to look correct. Next, let me fact check this one, which does look like this. Very interesting. However, if I check the Wikipedia page, this one is not even like critically endangered. This is just near threatened. So this is not among the rarest frog species out there. So while it got the look of number 2 correct, this should not be considered a rare frog. And then next we have this one, and this one is critically endangered, and apparently it looks something like this. Now from Nano Banana's generation, it looks the most similar to like these two, which are like dark and bumpy. I would say it's close. It's hard to tell if this actually looks like the real species because I'm not a frog expert, but it's pretty close. And then finally we have this one, which is actually a really old taxon, so this has actually been updated to a new taxon called Triprion spinosus, which looks like this, but this one is near threatened, so it's also not critically endangered. Plus, this photo doesn't really look accurate. So Nano Banana got like 2.5 out of 4 wrong, but it's still better than GPT Image, which got like 3 wrong. Again, this is a super tricky prompt, so I don't expect any of the image editors to get it completely right. Next, I wanted to see how good it is at making manga. I wanted to see if it can make a consistent, coherent story. So the prompt is make a black and white manga page with multiple panels showing a young man confessing his love at a train station. And here's what I got from GPT Image 1.5. Feel free to pause the video and read this, but the panels are actually coherent. The characters all remain consistent across these panels, and the story is actually coherent. So this is very good. And then here is Nano Banana Pro's generation, and here the characters and the background and the story are also coherent. So I would say both of them are able to make a full coherent manga page. Here I would have to say it's a tie. Next, I also wanted to see if it can colorize manga and translate it to Chinese. So here is the original manga page. Here's what I got from GPT Image 1.5. As you can see, it does change some subtle details. For example, it's not actually preserving the eyes and the mouth of the original character. Plus, it's also messing up this person's face, plus this person doesn't even exist in this panel. And then also, most of this Chinese is messed up. Some of the characters don't even exist. So overall, it's not that good. Whereas if you look at Nano Banana Pro, it actually got the Chinese translation correct, plus it's a lot better at preserving the original manga page. So in this instance, I would have to give the point to Nano Banana Pro. Next, I also wanted to test how good it is at generating interfaces, so here's a tricky one which no image generator could actually get correct so far. The prompt is a screenshot of YouTube search results for cute cats. Here's the generation from GPT Image, and it's actually pretty good. This does look like the YouTube search results page. There are a few subtle errors with the icons at the top here, but the thumbnails and the titles and the descriptions all look correct. Like there's no misspellings or anything like that. Here is Nano Banana Pro's generation. This also looks like a YouTube search results page, but there are significantly more misspellings on this page. As you can see, like over here, and over here. Plus there are also a ton of misspellings along this left menu. So overall, not great. In terms of having the least amount of errors, I would have to give the points to GPT Image 1.5. On my channel, I featured so many different AI models and tools, it can be very overwhelming. What if you can use all of these models all in one platform? And that brings us to ChatLLM by Abacus AI, the sponsor of this video. ChatLLM is an all-in-one platform for you to use the best AI models out there. You can seamlessly switch between different models in your chats. Plus, you can also use all the top image generators out there, as well as the top video models out there, all in one integrated platform. And they're usually very quick to add a model to their site once it comes out. Plus, if you're coding something, they have a really useful artifacts feature so that you can preview your generation side by side. Plus, they have a deep agent feature which can do some really complex tasks all autonomously, like creating PowerPoints, websites, and research reports. It's gonna supercharge your productivity. Best of all, you can access all of these AI models and image and video generators and Deep Agent for only $10 a month. This is way cheaper than if you paid for each tool separately. Definitely check out ChatLLM that comes with Deep Agent in the description below. Next, let's test out how good it is at generating existing people. So we have Johnny Depp, Jackie Chan, Taylor Swift, Tom Hanks, The Rock, Michael Jackson, Oprah, Blackpink, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Elon Musk taking a group photo. But wait a minute, Nano Banana Pro can already do this, so let's step up the difficulty and add even more characters. Let's also add all these additional characters and get them to take a group photo. Now, to my disappointment, GPT won't actually let me generate this. I tried regenerating this a few times, I tried removing some characters, but still it wouldn't let me generate this photo. But for Nano Banana Pro, it absolutely aced all these characters. I mean, you can clearly identify all the people I specified in this photo. You can pause the video to confirm, but all these characters actually look like the real person. Nano Banana is just incredibly powerful at rendering celebrities. Now, I know GPT Image has this knowledge, it's just hitting some guardrails, so I tested out another prompt, which is a grid of the top 16 richest people in the world, include their name and role or company below the photo. And this time I was able to bypass the guardrails and get it to actually generate some existing people. So here's what I got from GPT Image. Elon Musk kind of looks off, and then Warren Buffett also kind of looks off, and then some of these people I'm not really familiar with. And then this guy does not look like the Tencent founder, Pony Ma, so this is also wrong. I'm not sure about the rest of these people, so let me know in the comments if their faces are correct. And then here is Nano Banana Pro's generation. Elon Musk looks a lot better, same with Warren Buffett. Everyone just looks a lot more like the real person. So I would have to give the point to Nano Banana Pro. GPT comes close, but it's still not at the level of Nano Banana Pro in terms of generating existing people. It just has a much better world knowledge. Alright, next I also wanted to see if it can generate some anime characters. So here is Amelia, Gojo, Nezuko, Kuroro Gunso, Kenny from South Park, Bart Simpson, and Snow White taking a selfie. And honestly, both of them got it correct, but there are some errors with GPT Image, such as this part from Kuroro, plus Bart doesn't normally wear this hoodie. Whereas you can see for Nano Banana Pro, it got the character consistency a lot better. Bart is wearing his standard t-shirt, plus did you know that the Simpsons actually have 4 fingers only? So here's just a random screenshot, but yeah, all the Simpsons characters only have 4 fingers. So Nano Banana is actually correct here. This is not an error. But anyways, for this example, again, I would have to give the point to Nano Banana Pro. The characters are slightly more accurate. Next, I wanted to test its spatial understanding. So I uploaded a photo of this room and asked it to make a 2D floor plan of this apartment. So here's a side-by-side comparison. you can see that for GPT Image 5, it just got the spatial arrangement of everything completely wrong. This isn't even close to my reference image, whereas for Nano Banana Pro, it was actually able to get most of the stuff correct, such as the chairs here, plus this projector, and fireplace and sofa, plus this window. Now, this generation is still not perfect. For example, it decided to add 2 extra chairs here, even though that's not in the original image. But nevertheless, in terms of the overall arrangement of things in this scene, Nano Banana is a lot more accurate than GPT Image 5. So here the point would have to go to Nano Banana Pro. Next up, here's a fun one. I also wanted to see if it can generate some gameplay scenes. So I prompted it to generate some Starcraft gameplay of Teal Protoss versus Red Zerg. And here's what I got from both image generators. While GPT Image comes close, I would have to give the point to Nano Banana Pro. This just looks a lot more like an actual Starcraft gameplay scene. Whereas for GPT Image, it's just kind of making stuff up. Nano Banana Pro just has an incredible world understanding, so it's able to generate a lot of existing things. Whereas I find that for GPT Image 5, it's not as good. Next, let's test its ability to generate diagrams. So here I got it to create a diagram explaining how a decoder-only transformer model works. Here's the generation from GPT Image, and the diagram is all messed up. Everything is just all over the place. It's missing the embeddings and positional encodings. It's also missing the linear layer and softmax layer at the end. This is not correct. Whereas for Nano Banana Pro, this looks a lot better. It includes all the components, including like the embeddings and positional encoding. I guess here the arrows are kind of reversed because it's starting from the top, so I would actually reposition this so the attention block is at the top and then it goes through the feed-forward neural network, but I guess this way works too. And then afterwards, it goes through the final linear and softmax output layer to give us the probabilities. Overall, Nano Banana Pro does a much better job in this example. Next, here's an even trickier prompt. I just fed it a ton of Python code on some neural network, and I asked it to make a diagram showing this neural network. Here's what I got from GPT Image, and it came close, but it's not entirely correct. For example, it's missing a max pooling layer in between these two layers. And then this neural network is also kind of messed up, plus this output layer also looks messed up. Whereas for Nano Banana Pro, it understood this a lot better and was able to give me a really clean and accurate chart showing this convolutional neural network. Also for this example, I would have to give the point to Nano Banana Pro. Next, I went to Google Maps and chose this random spot. Let me just drop this dude here so you can see the street view of the scene, which looks like this. This is not a popular place. This is just a random intersection, so it's really hard for an AI model to actually know exactly what this place looks like. Now, I fed this prompt through both image editors. Generate a photo of this place. Here are the coordinates. And not surprisingly, both of them failed to actually generate a photo of the exact location. Next, I also wanted to see how good GPT Image is at generating character sprite sheets. So here we have a pixel art sprite sheet of a fire mage shooting a fireball. And here's what we get for GPT Image. I converted this into an actual animation, which looks like this. Overall, this is not bad. There are some inconsistencies, but it does look like a quite coherent animation of this fire mage shooting a fireball. And then for your reference, here is the generation from Nano Banana Pro. Now, one advantage of GPT Image 1.5 is that it can generate transparent images, whereas for Nano Banana Pro, this is not possible. So this sprite sheet that I got it to generate is actually a transparent PNG file, as you can see here. In my previous video, when I reviewed Nano Banana Pro, I inputted this FF7 battle scene and turned it into a faithful remaster, but that was too easy. We already have realistic renders of these characters, so Nano Banana Pro basically just generated those characters over here. So instead of using FF7, let's step it up a notch and use a screenshot from Final Fantasy IX. This has not been remade into a faithful remaster, and we don't have any realistic render of these characters. So I'm going to prompt it with turn this into a faithful remaster, and here's what I got from both models. Let's look at GPT Image first. Overall, this looks pretty good. It does reformat this into a remaster, and the looks of all the characters are preserved. This is very good. And then here is Nano Banana Pro's generation. This is also not bad. It's kind of hard to pick a winner here. It's a really close call, so I would say it's a tie between both models. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate working with data in Excel and trying to reformat the rows and columns and turn it into a nice chart. Wouldn't it be nice if I just fed it a screenshot of a table and get AI to automatically turn it into a beautiful chart? Well, that's what I'm testing over here. So here's a screenshot of a random table. This is quite complicated with various nested rows and columns. And for my prompt, I wrote, turn this into a nice chart. You can decide the best type of chart to use. And here's what I got. For GPT Image 1.5, if you look at the original table, it's kind of missing a lot of categories like PD, NE, and RR. So it's like missing half the data. Plus the height of all these bars are also not correct. There's just way too many errors with this generation. Now for Nano Banana Pro, this is actually really impressive. Not only did it capture all these categories from CR all the way to NE and then RR, but it's also able to map these out really well in these bar graphs. So for example, note that the y-axis is percentage of patients. So it's actually dividing all these values by the sample size, or basically the number of patients. For example, for this first one, CR, we get 5.7, which is actually 5 divided by 88. Same with this light green one, which is PR, we got 56.8. This is actually 50 divided by 88. So it's actually doing some pretty complex math under the hood and then planning out how to graph this into this nice visualization. So without a doubt, in this example, Nano Banana is the clear winner. Here's another tricky prompt that was suggested by a user. Here we have a direct comparison of the Wheatstone bridge circuit using 2 and 3 wire connections, and this is super tricky. Now, I'm not a professional electrician, but it seems like both models were not able to get this correct. For your reference, here's the correct answer up here. But again, I'm not an expert, so let me know in the comments which one is closer to getting it correct. Finally, here's a fun one. I got it to make a high-resolution Where's Waldo image. It should be very complex with a ton of people, with Waldo hidden somewhere in the image. And here's what I got from the two models. Both of them are really complex with a ton of people, but if I zoom in, the details are very distorted. Like, this is not a pass. All the faces are kind of warped. There's just too many errors with this generation. And then here is Nano Banana Pro's generation. Again, the faces are all messed up, and Waldo is just way too easy to find. He's right smack in the center, plus he's a bit larger than the other people. So anyways, both generations are not good. I would say it's a fail for both of them. Anyways, that sums up my quick tests with GPT Image 1.5 versus the current king, Nano Banana Pro. At least from my examples, I would have to say Nano Banana Pro is still the king of AI image. They've set the bar so high it's really hard to beat. Even though GPT Image 1.5 comes close, it's definitely a lot better than the previous version. At least they got rid of the yellow tinge, but it's still not quite up to par with Nano Banana Pro, which is just way too good. However, the nice thing about this new GPT image is it's free for you to use. Next up, here are some specs for your reference. Here it says, this new GPT Image 1.5 is rolling out now to all GPT users, including those on the free plan. So it's really easy to use this new model. On ChatGPT, simply click on the plus sign and then click Create Image. And then you can enter a prompt here or upload an image to edit. It's as simple as that. Note that by default, it tends to generate square images, so in order to get it to generate some different aspect ratios, you need to also include the aspect ratio in your prompt like this. Or you can write something like a horizontal or vertical image like this. Or they've also added this new images icon in the left menu. So you can click on this and start generating images on this interface like this. So let's try a quick one. Selfie photo of cosplayers, Rem and Ram from ReZero, doing a V sign with their tongue out. And here I'm explicitly telling it to generate a horizontal image. And here's what I got. Now, like I said, this is completely free for you to use even if you're on the free plan. Now, on ChatGPT, if you're on the free plan, you can generate like a dozen images every day before you hit the usage limit. And this refreshes every 24 hours. In addition to ChatGPT, I'm sure there are also various other third-party platforms where you can use GPT Image. For example, Higgsfield has already added GPT Image to their platform. Here are some additional specs for your reference. So this is up to 1.5K in resolution, and currently you can only generate these aspect ratios. So you can't do like 16:9 or 9:16. Here are some additional demos that they showcased. Here you can drag and drop multiple reference photos and add them into a photo like this. And it's actually really good at preserving character consistency. You can edit this image further, for example, by adding these kids in the background, or you can change the man on the left to an anime character like this, and the dog into a plushie like this, and it's really good at actually following your instructions. And then you can also get all of them to wear this sweater like this. But then again, Nano Banana Pro can do this as well. The best thing I like about this is they got rid of the yellow tinge. So the previous version of GPT Image had this really strange yellow tinge to it, whereas finally this is now gone in this latest update. This is also extremely good at rendering text. You can plug an entire article into your prompt, including a table like this, and it's actually able to render the entire article very accurately in the photo. It's also great at creating diagrams and illustrations. So here's an example of a poster of deep sea creatures in anime style, and as you can see, this new version is noticeably better than the previous GPT Image. Or here's a quiz on the world capitals, and here's the new GPT Image, whereas here is the old one. Now here's the crazy thing. If you look at this independent leaderboard called Artificial Analysis and you look at the text-to-image leaderboard, apparently GPT Image 1.5 is the leader with this score, which is actually really surprising. Like to me, I think Nano Banana Pro is still noticeably better than GPT Image, but apparently this is now ranked number 1. Same with this other independent leaderboard called LM Arena. Note that here, GPT Image 1.5 is ranked number 1 with this score, almost 30 points ahead of Nano Banana Pro, which is really surprising. However, note that this is just a preliminary score, and the sample size is like way lower than Nano Banana Pro. Once the sample size gets larger, I think this will start to move down the rankings. Like I showed you from my tests in this video, at least to me, I do think that Nano Banana Pro is a bit more capable. Anyways, that sums up my review on GPT Image 1.5. At least for me, while it's a huge improvement from the previous GPT Image, it does show a much better world understanding, it's much better at realism and prompt understanding, and they got rid of the yellow tinge, which is awesome. At least to me, it's still not as good as Nano Banana Pro. I think Google just set the bar way too high, and currently it's just really hard to beat Nano Banana. But let me know in the comments what you think of this and what other impressive generations were you able to make with GPT Image 1.5. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.